Hey there! Did you know Kroger always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Kroger app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Kroger today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com. The entire crew will be here. We got Bob Prisbillo slaving away. We just finished a Zoom call with Patrick Fields, Creed Humphrey, Rhamondre Stevenson, who was wonderful. We hadn't really talked to him, so he was fantastic, and got to talk to Ronnie Perkins as well, and I turned Eddie's mic off.
Trying to be censored already. That must be an election coverage of you.
I will admit, wheels were off the diet last night. I ordered in some food and drank some whiskey. I'm on radio vacay the rest of the week, and I'll be honest, I don't know how you guys are about this, but every once in a while, I mean, I go out now more than I ever have, but I still kind of get the Corona blues a little bit.
I didn't even know it was going on still, to be honest with you.
You wouldn't.
Until I cough every once in a while, and then I go, oh, I hope that's not it again.
Actually, every time you look at a mirror, you're reminded that it's still going on because your hair is everywhere.
No, this is called growing it out. I'm doing this on purpose.
I don't believe you.
I go get my hair cut, and I tell them to do a mullet.
Your mother must be just beside herself right now.
Not happy with it. Bad boy, though.
So, yeah, I mean, and it's not because I give a damn really about who wins the election. I mean, I'm kind of one of these people. I'm not getting political. I'm one of these people that just believes a president doesn't really affect my life all that much.
It's the worst job in America.
I mean, like, you're either going to close things down, you're not going to close things down, you're going to close it down differently. I mean, like, I don't think people are rioting because of, well, maybe. Anyway, nobody's rioting. I mean, come on.
No comment.
Anyway, I just don't care. Like, if Trump wins, good. If Biden wins, good. That's fine. But the stress of it is dealing with all your friends and all the text messages that you get. Like, I just didn't want to deal with that shit last night. But I dealt with it with whiskey.
I just don't care. Very indifferent. I think the voting process is pretty stupid.
I prescribed a whiskey diet for myself as well last night, and
just to get through it.
That's as much political TV as I'll watch. And I told Tiffany, I genuinely, people don't ever believe me, I genuinely don't care about politics. I just do not care. But it's just something to get, when you're in our position, it's just something to get you in trouble. It's just, it's like, there's nothing good that's come out of that for me.
I've dabbled, I'll admit. When all the George Floyd happened, I dabbled. I pissed off a lot of people, lost a lot of followers. It's just not, now.
I don't think that's politics, though.
I know. It's not. I don't even want to get into what it is.
Yeah. All I was going to say is I like numbers. I like
the map
watching
stuff
the guys
is fantastic.
working the maps.
Yeah, I watched CNN all night last night. And I heard MSNBC's map guy was pretty good, too, but I didn't flip over. Okay. But he is Jack, what's his name?
Not that liberal. Haven't been to MSNBC in a while.
Yeah. I barely know what the channels are. They're somewhere, I think 780 is CNN, and that's all I really know. I think there's a 784. I'm not big on watching the political channels.
I hate them. Mm-hmm. But I like it
is just first take for politics is all it is.
Oh, sure.
Which is a problem. That's the problem.
It's just what flavor of first take you're watching.
Night, she was saying it's like it's a sport. It's the sports thing in you. Like there's stats and there's numbers and there's stuff. And like that probably is what it is. Like, it appeals to me because, like, somebody's winning, somebody's losing, and there's a score being kept. And, like, I that appeals to me. That's really the only time every 4 years that I watch anything, any type of political news coverage.
And look, I understand we live in a conservative state, but there's just a certain level of disappointment when I take the trouble to go out and vote, which yesterday it was fantastic in Norman, and I like walked in, walked out. There's like one person in front of me in line. And then I was in the wrong line because I was in the wrong district. I was in province or precinct 1, and I was in the precinct 3 line. So then I had to go. Like, I took the walk of shame to precinct 1 because I was in the wrong line.
If I would have had to do that, I would have walked straight out of the building.
But then I got into the precinct 1 room, and there was no line at all. I was first one up. I went and got my ballot. I filled it all out. I never do the straight ticket thing, by the way. I don't believe in that. That's just a cop-out.
Everybody that was walking out of my polling place, it's like, you have to judge them, though, right? You have to be like, all right, I wonder what you voted for. You can usually tell. I was 100%
I have a pretty
yesterday.
hard and fast line. If anyone deals with money, I vote Republican. No matter, even if they're terrible. I don't. But see, like, who really knows if their county treasurer is terrible or not? You really
are they
have
in
to
politics?
do a lot of research.
Are they in politics? If so, yes, then they're a terrible person.
See, you're being political now.
No, I'm anti-political.
I think he's saying they're all terrible.
Yeah,
they're all terrible.
All of them. Every one of them.
I concur.
Thank you.
And you know,
except for the ones that I know and friends with.
And I am anti-old. So if you've been in the Senate for a long time, I vote against you, no matter what. But here's the problem.
Non-political take. Jim Inhofe, an idiot.
Tom Cole, I didn't vote for you. I'm sorry. Imhoff, I didn't vote for you.
Is he still rocking?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
I thought somebody died, but I guess it wasn't one of those two. Who died?
I don't know.
Somebody died in the last 5 years or something. That was
There's
one
been
of
a
those
lot
guys.
of deaths in the last 5 years.
But no, here's the thing. When you go and you put forth the effort to vote, it is always sad when, you know, like, before the votes are even in there, like, yeah, Oklahoma goes for Trump. Like, it was like, they haven't even closed the polls, and, like, Oklahoma was already for Trump. Like, there's no... And they never even got to break down Oklahoma. Like, you got to follow all those numbers, like in Texas, Josh. Like, they kept because Texas was interesting for a while. Oklahoma was never interesting enough for them to even touch the state and show you what the breakdown was. Like, I wanted to know if there were any blue counties in Oklahoma at all, because
the answer
usually are not.
The answer is
why do they even bother to the polls to close? Like, they know what Oklahoma's doing. Like, just call that one 2 weeks ago.
Like, Georgia's been getting talked about constantly for 2 days now, and Oklahoma got jack squat. We didn't get shit. We got no coverage.
Come on, people. Fake them out at least.
I know. I wanted John King to give a shout-out to, like, Payne County or something.
Exactly.
Or McIntosh or LaFleur.
Like, Stevens County.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, come on, give us a shout-out.
Actually, no, because what we learned from that map is all cities are Democratic and all rural areas are red.
It's wild.
Like, it across the board, there's not a state where the big cities weren't all blue. Except Oklahoma.
Just let me know when, and I will put in the rundown. You can start listening now.
Seriously.
So there is our non-political political talk to start out the podcast. Because, you know, everybody's been doing the same thing.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's the biggest story in
Everybody's been sitting around just watching television, watching this the last 24 hours.
The one thing I will say, though, and it has bugged the shit out of me over the last month, maybe even more so than that, this idea that this is the biggest election of all time. Just remember, they're going to say the same thing in 4 years. Whoever it is.
It's just
Democrats
like
or Republicans. It's always the biggest election.
Is this the greatest college football team of all time?
Well, sometimes you can decide that, but only if OU's involved.
I listened to a really interesting podcast called oh God, I'd like to give it a plug. The Wicked Game, and it's about like each episode is 1 year of elections, like, you know, going all the way back to like George Washington and how it all was handled, you know, and kind of the big moments in each election cycle. Well, all of them, like almost all of them, are like, this will be the election that decides the fate of the United States of America. Like, it's the same thing every damn time. Yep. And I mean, in some cases it's true, and in most cases it's not. It's just, you know, another 4 years of slightly different bullshit.
Yeah.
that is politics, just a great summary. 4 years of slightly different bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah, Biden wins. We're going to have 4 years of slightly different bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Except one side will be screaming and the other will be calm.
You just might not see it on Twitter as much. Directly from the president.
We're pretty lucky that we live in Oklahoma because we don't have like crazy liberals like if we lived in California.
I mean,
like lots of them.
California's been shut down for the last 25 months.
Or like Portland. Like people make it out like Norman is the liberal capital of the world. We're not. It's just a bunch of women that wear weird clothes.
You live here, I don't. I can't say anything. I won't say anything.
A lot of long dresses and
I do think OU needs to schedule Oregon at some point over
things.
the next couple years.
I loved going out to Oregon. That was a great trip.
They decriminalized cocaine, methamphetamines, and heroin. I don't know anybody that does curricular heroin, but
they're basically saying if you want to do drugs, do drugs.
I mean, I guess.
They're going to have a lot of heroin deaths, though.
Yeah, but they'll all be wearing Nike stuff, so it'll be okay.
That might be too far.
The what?
I said when even Eddie and I are like, ooh, that might be a little far. Like, I think maybe you've gone past the point of reasonable.
Yeah, but I mean, they will all be wearing duck uniforms, so I guess it's okay. It would have been great for Colt Lyerla.
He could have had his pro career.
Yeah.
He just would have been addicted to heroin.
Well, I mean, it would have been legal.
You can't play sports and be addicted to heroin.
I've never seen a guy with 3-day-old bag under his eye score 3 touchdowns in one game.
I mean, literally,
that'd be impressive if you did.
The NCAA is not going to let up on that type of drug policy. It's like, and Lincoln Riley is not going to bat for mental health and heroin. Yeah. All right,
that's probably true.
All right,
if
Bob
these
Przbillo.
Kids could just shoot up.
Bob Przbillo is done with his child labor. You missed a riveting political conversation, Bob.
I'm just putting in the notes, Bob. You can start listening now, so you haven't missed anything.
What's up, guys?
What's happening?
Well, we had a chance, so let's just go ahead and get on to football instead of elections and maps and stuff like that. But we did have a chance to talk to Ronnie Perkins and Rhamondre Stevenson today, and I said this a little bit earlier, Bob. I had not talked. I don't know, Josh, had you ever talked to Rhamondre Stevenson before?
Yeah, several times. He's a good interview. He's always good to talk to.
I was, I mean, not shocked, but I mean, I was pleasantly surprised with how much of a public speaker he is. He did a really good job.
That's going to be good for us. That's going to be good for us because we'll be talking to him every single week, I have a feeling, for the rest of the season.
And Eddie was sitting there halfway through it. He's like, wow, his teeth are really white. Like, he really is a
he got ready for us today.
well-kept man.
Absolutely.
He was impressive. Much more so than us beat people sitting on a phone call with our hats and hair that hasn't been cut. And
it's been combed. It just hasn't been cut.
It's been washed?
Yeah, I'm not growing dreads.
Which begs the question, did you guys, like the first few weeks, did it start out like, I'm going to a press conference? Or has it just from the beginning been like, we're going to set a very low bar here?
Well, most people will put on the video. I don't ever put on the video.
Okay.
So I don't have to be seen. Sometimes I'm heard, but I'm not seen. I think that's my best quality.
Oh, Eddie sees it right now. I've designed a new backdrop for my Zoom.
It's good. Looks good.
Nice.
It's the wall of technology over here at the
all our
at
camera
Scoop Manor.
crap.
Any
basically,
kitchen utensils or anything back there?
No, but I do have my.
And then you have a Van Halen and a Rim poster. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
He really knows how to piss me off.
I'm just kidding.
It's not a poster; they're albums.
Their album, yeah.
And I have the gargoyle too.
Does that keep away the
gargoyles? Yeah, are for.
Aren't they supposed to like keep away spirits and stuff?
Yeah, they're supposed to be protecters.
You needed it this last weekend, then Halloween.
None of those little fuckers came around here, so I was good.
It might be for Cash, Josh. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, but I also have my 70s ABC Wide World of Sports TV truck, which I dare anyone to beat as a Zoom backdrop. Okay. Right. Anyway, we did have a Zoom today. We talked to Ronnie Perkins. Ronnie Perkins Bob, I would say a little standoffish, a little.
Yes.
He was looking for the gotcha moment, maybe, I think, from people today.
Yeah, and you can tell he's like, oh, I don't really want to get into some of it. And I guess we never really pushed the envelope. I think when you start realize you can know within the first 2-3 questions whether or not someone's going to be open and actually give you an account of what's really happened. And it just seemed pretty clear that wasn't what Ronnie wanted to do today. He gave a little insight, but if you're looking for this mind-blowing expose of what happened in Ames and why everything was delayed.
Yeah.
It's not happening today, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen while he's still on campus.
And he was asked about, the kind of the weirdness of being in Ames and then not being at Texas, and he just said he was just trusting the process to work itself out. But, I mean, he was clearly nervous. He had to ask for questions to be repeated several times. Because I think you just it's kind of like, I've had this problem with public speaking. It's like you can't breathe, and then all of a sudden you're short of breath, and you're not really listening, and you can't really talk, and it's like you're having a small panic attack. So I think there was a little bit of that going on today with Ronnie. But Rhamondre, he was great.
I think Ronnie wanted to say something, he would have just been like, well, because it's all bullshit. Like that, and he would have got in trouble if he would have said that.
Yeah, somebody asked him about Lincoln's support of him, and he said he couldn't really comment on the rule.
I thought it was never mind. I mean, what's he supposed to say?
You were going to say stupid question.
It was a stupid question.
No, I mean it was a question that had to be asked. I mean, Lincoln Riley defended him.
Get paid by clicks, though. I understand.
Lincoln Riley defended him, and defended all those guys. And they were just, wanting his response to, the rule and what Lincoln said, and he just didn't want to get into it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was fine with that line of questioning compared to what Rhamondre, where it felt like people were trying to create storylines on the fly, even though they're not there to be created.
Rhamondre, is it true that you grew up with polio and survived it?
His high school career he said it flat out in the first question. It was great. It's not like some inspiring story that he had to overcome.
It's not the Marquise Brown story where he worked at Six Flags.
He smartened up when he got to junior college. He had the opportunity. Yes, there's a lot of truth. I mean, me and Josh, we know that Texas wanted him to visit in January. So him signing in December was a huge coup for the Sooners. But outside of that, it felt like a traditional junior college to Power 5 type of story.
I don't think that I realized at the time, and I guess it's easy to say this now looking back on it, but I don't think at the time I realized what exactly Oklahoma was getting in a runner like Rhamondre Stevenson. I think it was pretty evident on Saturday.
That because Texas wanted him, he was a pretty good prospect.
But it's been one of those, I don't know. I guess in a way I was just like, almost like a throwaway guy. Like, I don't know really how much this guy's going to really come in and be able to contribute.
It was kind of like an extra guy.
Right,
we can get this guy. Let's go ahead and take a chance.
Yeah,
and
then
this guy.
You look up on Saturday, and it's very obvious that he's the number one running back on the team. Ronnie Perkins is probably the best defensive lineman on the team.
I mean, just in terms of professional football value, I'm going to say this even with Hubbard and Hall in the league, he might be the most valuable. He might be the most... Well, I think he's the most ready to be an NFL running back right now.
He runs like an NFL guy.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. Like I talked about it in The Idiot. The run he made in the end zone where he stuffed initially and then he spins back out to his right.
Is like
nobody else on Oklahoma's roster makes that run. Nobody.
And he just bounces off of people like they have no shot.
I mean, how many times did we see that in the first, 2-3 weeks, especially just Oklahoma not being able to punch it in when they got inside the 10-yard line and running the ball, and it's just completely different now. And it probably goes hand in hand with everything that Oklahoma's been able to do offensively. It helps up front. I mean, those guys are playing better, the offensive line, but Rhamondre just brings a different level of running back, Kerry. I think you said it on Saturday. He is a man.
Yeah,
that is a man running the football.
He will dwarf other people on a football field. Like, you saw the McPherson kid early, and he was making plays all over the field, tackling people. Then he was getting face mask penalties. But it's like once Rhamondre Stevenson was out on the edge and McPherson was trying to tackle him, McPherson looked like a kid, and Rhamondre looked like a man. Like he's just big everywhere, I assume.
You know what's funny?
Interesting
is
assumption.
when we watched him warm up, he looked pudgy. We all thought he kind of looked pudgy, but then when he put his pads on, he looked like the same guy. We were initially worried, like, did he do any sort of conditioning at all during the last 4 or 5 months?
But he's always kind of been that way. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
it just looks weird when you don't have the pads on.
Eddie, do not call me an olds for this, but
he's thick.
But he's Jerome Bettis. I mean, he's that kind of size.
He's not that thick, though, is he?
Well, yeah. I mean they call
Jerome
him
Bettis was borderline.
What I'm saying is he has that type of build.
Sure.
Where he's, it's obvious he, doesn't have 6% body fat, but not everybody has to have 6% body fat.
He looked great. I think, I'm sure that, Kerry, you guys talked about it on the pregame, just as far as, like, what is realistic and what they're able to contribute. And I
didn't think it would be nearly
if they can get in there and get some reps, that's good news. You can slowly work them back in there. And I know that they had been practicing and they talked about, working scout team and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, my God, it was night and day. And, we talked about it on the postgame pod, but, Bob and Josh, I'd love to just kind of start and just get your thoughts overall, because that was an Oklahoma football team on Saturday that, I don't know, it changed some things. I don't think I'll be using the word pussy to talk about any of the guys on the either side of the ball.
The only thing I'll say, and I'll let Bob go because he was there, I'd love to hear his takes, but to me, that the team that played against Texas Tech, that's a top 6 or 7 team in the country. Like they were that good. They were dominant in every phase you need to be. They're winning up front. They're starting to find playmakers like we've talked about for weeks. There wasn't a lot of holes in the way they did that. And that score, I don't know about you guys, I thought that score was fairly flattering to Texas Tech. I didn't feel like the game was anywhere near that close.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, when you look at what Perk and Stevenson were able to do, I thought, 15, 20 snaps at most, but they were so dominant, so good early that they earned getting more than 30 snaps because they didn't need like this, ease them into type of things. They were ready to go right from the jump, and you could just see it wasn't just an emotional lift that they gave to the team, because we knew that was a given, but it was how well they played. It just kind of changed dynamic. And Spencer Rattler's quote after from Carrie's question, that was sensational. That lets you know this team might be starting to change its identity in the second half of the season.
It's just crazy, too.
You mean the thing where he said it's time for us to go out and embarrass somebody?
You got it.
Yeah. It's just crazy, too, that, I don't know. I mean, I guess at the time I thought, I kind of bought into this idea that, winning a 4 overtime game against Texas, it was going to give them some sort of confidence. But, I mean, is it just as simple as that definitely kind of brought everything together and brought a confidence within them that, yeah, they can win games. I don't know if it happens overnight, but they've looked like a different.
Brought some swagger to the
team.
Sure,
it's given that young group of guys that maybe didn't have the taste of being able to find a way to win a football game, the confidence to say we can do this.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a team now. I think. I mean, and that was the thing. It's like you wondered where it would all go after the overtime win at Texas. Well, they went into TCU, and let's face it, they beat TCU like nobody else has really beat TCU this year, right? I mean,
you guys are saying not according to Brando and Tilton.
Oh God,
you were lucky you didn't have to listen to those fools.
Thank God. Thank God. I don't know who will be on the call this weekend. It can't be good. But thank God we all get press box access this weekend.
You and Eddie get to escape. I'm left with this dark hole that just is the play-by-play game right now.
Josh, do you know who's doing the color work this weekend?
Oh God, I don't.
It's your boy, Tom Luckenbill.
Oh, Lugs.
Back when I played at Georgia Tech, and my dad was a coach.
He is your Isaiah Thomas.
Okay, and we all know someone else who does this. He's the guy who shows up at camps and will talk for an hour about what he saw at camp, and I was like, you talked for longer than you were at the camp. Like, you spent more time talking about what you saw than you actually spent the time watching, and that shit makes me crazy.
I've seen that happen before.
Yeah, there was one this summer. Sticks out pretty notably.
Who wasn't on the call today, for what it's worth.
Oh, wow. Wow, Bob.
Damn.
Love it.
That happens quite a bit.
Oh.
Am I lying?
I feel like this is the Matrix. I'm just dodging bullets right now. Get out of the way. Get down. Shut up.
Let's be honest. You're dodging alley-oops right now is what you're dodging.
Oh, maybe.
I know you want to dunk on some pools.
It's more so because of my vert than anything else. It's not because of desire.
Your coffee black now, huh?
Somewhat, yeah.
You've seen that movie?
Semi-pro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he even knew the damn name.
I watched Will Ferrell.
Like, we've found so many movies that Eddie has watched recently. Tin Cup.
Yeah, they all have something to do with sports, right?
They do, and they're all pretty old too.
But that doesn't seem to matter with you. I mean, like, you know, I'm sure you've
They have
seen
to be in my
Varsity
wheelhouse.
Blues.
Well, yeah, it's one of the greatest movies ever made.
Have you seen Rudy?
Yeah. Catholic.
Have you seen The Natural?
Yes. I've seen all the sports movies.
All right, test.
Except for the
You haven't seen all the right
except for all the
moves.
boxing movies. Sorry, Bob.
What is the penalty that Rudy commits late in the game?
Offsides?
There we go. Yep, he's definitely offsides.
Well, yeah.
I just want that settled.
And to come to find out that the real Rudy's actually, I think, a huge prick. So
He's been in prison.
yeah, not a good person.
No.
And I don't know how he came back and his brother's fucking his old girlfriend. And how did he not, like, try to kill his brother? Pete. Or not Pete, but the real brother.
Yeah. Yeah. No, his real brother's a son of a bitch. I mean, there's just no doubt.
Yeah, that's what they get for not being allowed to watch anything other than Notre Dame games growing up.
Yeah, I think you have a kindred soul in Joe Montana.
Somewhat.
We all do.
Somewhat.
Well, guess what? The holidays are coming up, and if you guys are anything like me, you're pretty hard to shop for because all you really care about is spending money on sports or stupid crap like workshops and stuff like that. But it's important that you look well, too. And you can do that by ordering yourself something from Dead Soxy or having a loved one order it for you for Christmas. Just go to deadsoxy.com. That's DEADSOXY.com. And, hey, tell them to use the promo code that we offer you. It's a 30% off promo code exclusively for Sooner Scoop. Just enter your keyword, Boomer, at checkout, and you can get 30% off your order. You can get the Crimson and Cream colorways to support the Sooners. All kinds of, if you want to go college, pro, NBA, whatever. They've got all kinds of colors for you to choose from, as well as just some great-looking luxury socks. And they've got really high-quality source fabrics that'll take your sock game to the next level. They got the no-slip silicone beads in the welt, so they prevent the dreaded slippage. But just go and either for a gift for someone else or tell someone to go to deadsoxy.com to get a gift for you. Use that promo code for 30% off for Soonerscoop.com and enter that keyword Boomer at checkout. That's DeadSoxy, DEADSOXY.com. And as always, stay soxy. All right. So, no, I mean, Oklahoma, a little bit of swagger now. You go and play Kansas this week. Boy.
The old Kansas week.
I mean, God. Kansas and then bye. I mean.
Which one's going to be the trickier week for OU?
Probably bye because they have to navigate not getting any COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of coming back a little bit. Wisconsin's like, hey, how you doing?
It's pathetic.
Nice scheduling, Big Ten.
Yeah. They set themselves up for that. It is crazy, though, that, you know, there's 4 games left in the season, which is almost
hard to believe.
Yeah, it is hard to believe. But the fact that we're sitting here on November 4th as compared to what it was, you know, post Iowa State, that they're even in the conversation to play in a Big 12 championship game.
They don't, but they, in a lot of ways, they control their own destiny as long as Kansas State continues to be the Kansas State that went to Morgantown last weekend. Because they've got to play OSU. Like, the worst thing possible is Kansas State beating OSU. You do not want that.
No. Yeah, Oklahoma fans need to cheer for Oklahoma State this weekend. Real quick, too, to backtrack, Josh, was that Spencer Rattler's best game? I mean, it had to have been, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would
there's
say
only
it
one
was.
answer. There's only one answer.
It was his most consistent effort by far. I mean, they're just – because, guys, I mean, like we've talked about it, some of his best throws, I don't know what the hell it is this season, but you'll see guys that are really sure-handed, and then he'll make an unbelievable throw and it gets dropped.
It's like people don't think he can make some of the throws he's making.
Yep.
That's the only
that's exactly
explanation
what it
that I
is.
have.
Yep.
And
I
Theo
think
Weiss
you're
is
dead on.
number one. Like, nothing should surprise you anymore, Theo Weiss. Like, when you turn around, there's probably going to be a ball in your chest.
After that catch against Missouri State, there should be no surprises left for him. Like, just expect the ball. Like,
yeah.
I mean, because he made the play against Missouri State on one of the more ridiculous throws I've seen from Rattler so far this year. But, yeah, I thought he was outstanding. I thought he could have been even better. Obviously, the Mims drop. Mims had a couple drops on the day. Had a big third down drop that hurt him. Theo Weiss, obviously, with the drop in the end zone. I thought Austin Stogner bounced back pretty well after a shaky week against TCU. So that's a good sign. And, you're still seeing him force some things. And, like the throw to Stogner on the first drive where they scored. Sure, Stogner made the play, and, we always talk about you got to trust your receiver to go make a play, and Stogner's a pretty good guy to trust. But he had other options, and he just was like, nope, I want my big guy. So, and that's, like I said, there's room for that, but it's interesting to kind of watch as he continues to develop. The thing I will say, and Kerry, you noted it in the postgame, that we didn't have the zone read problems that we saw from Oklahoma the previous week because really you just didn't see much of it. And secondarily, his clock looks better. It's finally started like, okay, I can't hold the ball forever. I've got to either tuck it or get rid of it or move. I've got to do something. It just seems like his timing's getting more in line with where it needs to be.
That throw to Stogner on the touchdown, I've watched that like 20 times, where he just flicks his wrist.
It is amazing how the ball leaves his hand. It's not like anything I've ever seen.
Guys, the long one to Stogner that I was just saying, that was 42 yards. He doesn't step into it.
He throws it off his back foot.
And it never leaves the screen. Like, it's not like it's some moonshot. Like, it's a seed down the middle of the field. I mean, you're talking about 7-8 guys in college football can throw the ball like that, if that many.
When we got up to the press box, the wind wasn't what it was, but when we left, that was a pretty brisk wind. So when Lincoln mentions how well Spencer navigated that, I can back that up. That wind, as it got later into the night, that was something to deal with.
It's
That's
too
something
bad.
that you would think would have been included on the broadcast, but I guess not.
Well, we got our candy corn.
Guys,
preference
I
in
just
there, so
can't
that's
believe
important.
this is the only year of Spencer Rattler we get to watch. I mean, that's how disappointing.
I mean,
Caleb Williams is starting when he gets here, right?
that's another.
Oh, geez.
That's
There's another
that's
shot.
that's
There's another
that's
dodging bullet.
That's a take that might come from somebody that is using methamphetamines in Oregon.
Or heroin.
I don't know. I don't know if you'd be able to get that out. I think it'd be more like, you're like, stay awake. What do you what?
Welcome to our new guessing game. What narcotic is Eddie on?
Wake up. Finish your sentence.
I mean-
What were you going to say?
You're considering a possibility that Spencer Rattler is probably, first-team freshman All-American quarterback, has a chance to lead his team to a conference championship, has a chance to lead them to a New Year's Six bowl, and he's going to get benched next year.
It's just an
Okay.
all-time moronic take.
It's for clicks. It's for the retweets. It's for the attention is what it is.
But has it been screenshotted for prosperity?
Well, yeah, obviously. We put that all in the files.
Freezing Cold Takes is going to have that one.
But no, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing about Kansas is can you go out and bury somebody else that you should bury? Because their defense is awful. Rhamondre Stevenson might have 200 yards.
By halftime.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Rhamondre Stevenson could make a run at P. Ryan's record if they really wanted to go that way with it.
I feel like there's been bad Kansas teams. We've watched them in Lawrence. We've watched them come to Norman.
But they've had good defenses even when they sucked.
This might be one of the worst Kansas teams that they've had. I think this will also be the last time that Les Miles coaches against Oklahoma, too.
Maybe not good defenses, but they've had good defensive lines. Like, they've had defensive lines. Pretty much every team in the Big 12 that would go in and play them would be like, we'd take those guys.
Yeah. They had Dorrance Armstrong for several years there, who was a heck of a good player. I mean, they've always had a couple pieces where you're like, well, that guy could hurt you. That Puka for years has obviously been a huge thorn in Oklahoma's side. But now there's nobody coming in on this roster that you're like, OU's got to be aware of that guy. Like, I don't know how, as coaches, you motivate this team. Like, what do you sell them on?
Eddie and I are very distracted right now.
How do you motivate Kansas?
Yeah. Oh God.
CNN.
I did.
Currently,
Kansas is like a football team I legitimately feel sorry for. Like the last week, they were driving. They had a nice little drive going against Iowa State. They were going to get a field goal. I think it would have pulled it to 17-10 or 20-10 or something like that. And they drive all the way down. It's a 15-play drive to go like 50 yards. I mean, it's where Kansas is. But they go on this huge drive. The kicker shanks the kick left. You're like, God, that's just got to make your skin crawl. We finally put it together. We finally do something useful on offense, and our kicker shanks it in the wind. I mean, just awful.
What will it take for Kansas to even become halfway respectable? Because, I mean, they've recruited some kids out of Oklahoma that are good players. Like the Hysaw kid from Moore is a good football player. Is it literally just culture in Lawrence? Like they don't know clue A about how to put together a winning football program? Or why did Mangino have the success that he did? I mean, they had some NFL players, obviously, with Chris Harris and Aqib Talib. Mm-hmm. Reesing was a good quarterback. The Briscoe kid was a good wide receiver. It just seems like, I don't know. And Kansas was decent in the 70s, weren't they? Like 80s? Like a decent football program?
I couldn't speak to the 80s. They were good in the 90s. They were better than Oklahoma in the 90s.
I mean,
I think everybody was.
They beat Oklahoma in the 80s. They beat Troy Aikman.
Well, that's why he had to transfer. Like a bitch.
Glenn Mason. Troy. God, I couldn't think of that.
Yeah, Glenn Mason was a good coach.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They had a nice run with him. Obviously, had a nice run with Mangino in the early 2000s.
Before Mangino, they had that guy from Iowa. Can't remember his name now.
Iowa.
I'm blanking.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, he came from like northern Iowa, I think.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, they really did just try to copy the Bill Snyder method here. Let's see.
Googling.
Before Mark Mangino, yeah, I'm on it. Tom Hayes. No, Terry Allen.
Terry Allen's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yep.
He wasn't bad.
Yeah. Eddie's not wrong though, in that they weren't bad in the 70s, early 80s under a guy named Don Fambro. I don't know that name, but and they won a few games. Oh, wait. I thought I was looking at wins and losses. It was games coached and then wins. Yeah, he had a losing record. Never mind. He wasn't that good after all. My mistake. I apologize. Mangino is...
So don't...
Wow. Prior to Mangino, the last time they had a coach that left with a winning record was Jules V. Sykes from 1948 to 1953. He was 35-25. He's the only guy other than Mangino to have a winning record in Kansas in the last 60 years.
Because even someone
Fog Allen
Allen
coached
or
games
Mason,
for them.
They just can't do it the entire time.
Fielding Yost. That's a great name.
Fog Allen coached football games. He's got one of their best winning records of all time.
Not as good as Fielding Yost.
Well, I mean...
He coached 10 games and he won them all.
God, was Kansas national champions in
1899? They
won 6 at Michigan.
They were like champions of the plains or something like that's probably the award they gave out then.
He sounds like a racist.
Fielding Yost?
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance you could call anyone a racist in 1899.
Well,
yeah.
She fits.
Hit the target.
Probably so.
I'll be honest. I don't know a lot about Kansas because when they're on television, I don't want to watch it.
You have to be a psycho to watch it.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to make money and taking like Iowa State minus 27 or something.
Yeah. Which they barely covered.
Gamble like that.
Is it
more focused
38?
on Wednesday night action games.
Is it
Yes.
38 for the spread?
Yes, that's what I've seen so far this week.
Take Oklahoma. That feels like free money. Like OU could put up 70 in like 3 quarters in this one. That's how bad Kansas is.
Yeah, I mean we're almost better off talking about can OU beat OSU right now.
Yeah,
That's going through a bye, going through Kansas, and just talk about that matchup. But I'll be interested to see what Spencer Sanders does against Kansas State this weekend, if he's still a turnover machine.
I mean,
What did you
go ahead,
Josh. What did you
Josh.
guys make of that game last week? Like
I was going to ask.
there were
you,
things
'cause
I saw
didn't
that
see
were I
any
thought
of
were really positive. Like I thought he threw the ball a little better than I'd seen him throw it, but he's still
When he's good, he
can't
looks
take care of the
good.
ball.
Yeah. I mean, when he's good, you can make comparisons to a lot of NFL-type quarterbacks.
You just can't. They had their Kansas State game. I mean, you can't turn the ball over 4 times.
Yeah.
You can't give up a kick return for a touchdown. You can't rough the kicker on 4th and 11 or 4th and long, whatever it was.
The thing is, Texas deserved to win that game as much as they deserved to win the OU game. Like, they really didn't do a whole lot until the very end to win that game.
and that's why.
I mean, a kickoff return for a touchdown.
The most Texas
I love the
thing.
narrative that it's Sam Ehlinger is a hero. Like that's because Sam Ehlinger is so great. No, he plays football for 5 minutes of 60. That's not great.
It's still admirable, though, because he's the only one doing a damn thing on that team.
I like you guys know I respect Sam Ehlinger, but it always turned into he's such a gamer. Where was that for the last 50 minutes of football? Like you wouldn't be in this spot.
Well, he saves the best for last.
Well, and I think part of it, too, is he just takes it on his own shoulders. I mean, he doesn't do that. He tries to, like, just throw the ball to Eagles or – I'm not sure that Joshua Moore is a number 1 receiver. I know I haven't seen enough of him with just giving me a wow factor. Like, he makes a lot of catches. He does some good things, but, like, Woody Washington blanketed him up. I mean, Eagles got behind them one time against OSU. I mean, I think they're more consistent as receivers. I don't know that they're difference makers, though, at receiver.
Yeah, they've got solid guys. They don't have that guy like Duvernay that, hey, if we need 7 yards, we can go to him. He'll get what we need.
Although Duvernay, we never said it, but he was a hell of a football player. I mean, he's doing well in the league right now.
Yep, Duvernay's a good player, man. He was. Honestly, as good as he was, it always felt like they didn't use him very well. Duvernay was like a legit 4-3 track guy, and they've got him running crossing routes. Like, why don't you stretch the defense? Why don't you loosen up a little room for Ehlinger and your running backs to run the ball? But no, they're just going to run him over the middle, run little curls. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, he had a great year, but it felt like there was a lot more he could have done if they'd allowed him to.
It says way more about Texas that they got 4 turnovers, ran back a kick, got basically the ball back after a boneheaded penalty. It says more about them that they had to win that game in overtime than it does about OSU, right? Like, it would be very Texas for them to go back to Austin this weekend and find a way to lose to West Virginia.
I think that'll be a pretty good game.
I do too.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if I look up on Saturday afternoon and West Virginia won the game.
Hey, we're talking about trap games. They got 2 weeks off from West Virginia, and then they got to go to Lawrence, Kansas.
Yeah,
we know that's been a problem.
I can't. I can't make Texas to be the ups here. Like Oklahoma State, they had that easy schedule to start the season. They had Texas at home. Like, the whole thing was made for them to succeed, to win the Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And they
Oklahoma
shit
fell
the
down
bed.
on their face.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, big time. Like,
but I guess we shouldn't be so surprised. I mean, it basically happens every year, and I guess they could still rebound, but like, they should go up to Kansas State and beat a bad Kansas State team by a couple touchdowns. They should go up there and cover.
Will Howard should have a hard time completing passes against their defense.
You would think. And then that would set up a big showdown in Norman in 3 weeks.
2 weeks after that. Then.
Yeah, 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, but it does, I mean.
Why don't we just move that game up a week? Is that what you want to buy next week?
The Masters is on November 14th. Are you crazy?
It's not the real Masters, though. It's the delayed Masters. It's the fake Masters.
I'm going to breathe. And we're not gonna yell, but that's crazy. That's crazy.
Do you have
talk.
a paper bag for him in there anywhere, Carrie?
I have a plastic. No, I have a plastic bag. I'm gonna put it over Carrie's head.
You hurt me earlier with my REM, and I hurt you with your Masters.
All right, we're fair. It's 1-1. It is crazy though to sit here on November 4th and say, I mean, I think Oklahoma's the favorite to win the Big 12 right now. And they still need help to even get into the conference championship.
I think you still have to say Iowa State is not, like we talked about this in the postgame. If there's a power rankings right now, which is who's playing the best right now,
sure.
Iowa State deserves to be on top.
I do my power rankings like Trammell. I do it week to week and what I saw the day before.
So you would put OU number 1 on yours?
I mean, the way that they played last week, yes.
But they played Tech.
Sure.
Well, Carrie, there's two different conversations. If you want to say Iowa State deserves to be ranked ahead, okay, I can get there. That's fine. If you wanted to say tomorrow, Oklahoma and Iowa State are going to play a football game, who are you picking?
Right.
I mean.
Really? Oh, I don't. Now, they still got to figure out something to do with Charlie Kolar. There's no question. That's still going to be a problem.
Yes.
But
by the way,
Oklahoma's offense just looks like a different animal.
We did kind of gloss over the fact that Woody Washington started that game.
Not only did Woody Washington start, but I mean.
And Trey Norwood obviously started.
I asked Bob this morning. It's like, this is the first time that I've been excited to watch an Oklahoma defense take the field in 3 or 4 years. Like, legitimately excited to see what they can do together.
Winfrey and Perkins and Isaiah Thomas.
That's a front that they have not had.
That they haven't had.
Yeah.
I don't even know that they had that. It's not been this good, I don't think, in the entire Mike Stoops era, has it?
I mean, Josh, we talked about this on the postgame pod, but when was the last time they legitimately had a defensive line that can make that much of a difference in a game?
I think you'd have to say 2009. That Beal, Gerald McCoy, Adrian Taylor, that crew. I mean, because it's no longer just Isaiah Thomas and Perrion Winfrey and LaRon Stokes. You got Marcus Stripling now 2 straight weeks has made some really nice plays. Josh Ellison, we've talked about him. He's come on. The guy that I keep seeing on tape, and I like what he does, and he's not always the one actually making the tackle, but Jordan Kelly's playing really nice football for Oklahoma right now. Like, it's not superstar. I'm not saying he's going to be the greatest player ever, but as your third option at nose tackle, he's playing really, really well.
And it's, the thing about both he and Trey Norwood, and maybe Jalen Redmond illustrates this better than anyone, but guys that were rehabbing, it's pretty clear that it was a lot harder on them with everything shut down. Like, the reason Jalen Redmond isn't playing is because he didn't rehab for 2 months, and that's his own fault. Like, he could have been doing something, but even the guys that were, coming back from a year-long knee, like, they weren't doing the things. By the way, Jaden Hazelwood finally puts out a video with a knee brace on the other day. How about that?
Did see that, and
I didn't even mention
Terry
that.
Finally gets vindicated.
I know there's a lot of people that think that he could come back relatively soon, and I've even heard the Bedlam weekend thrown around just from that video alone.
There's no way.
But we don't know if that video was current either. I don't know, but I thought the same thing as you. It's like, ugh. Not moving around.
That doesn't look like somebody that's about to make a comeback.
That doesn't look like somebody that's been cleared to run.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
He's still building strength in that knee.
We'll see, though.
If that's recent, yeah, he's got a ways to go.
No doubt.
That's the beginning of something, not the end.
Well, it makes you wonder. So back when we knew something had gone wrong and something had happened, he was putting out all those videos where he wasn't in a brace, and you could clearly tell he wasn't. Now, is he doing the reverse and fucking with us all And it's like, those are my videos.
Are you
way
saying
back.
he has a time traveling device?
He needs to hire.
No, I'm
Those
saying they're
videos
old
were from the future when he was
No, I'm
finished.
saying those are old ass videos. Like I'm saying, those are back when. And I'm not saying that. I'm not reporting that. I'm not saying anything. I'm just wondering because clearly he was messing with us then. Is he messing with us now?
He was in some kind of a stoop storage facility or something because there was like old Iowa stuff in like a barn or something. It's weird.
You don't have just old Iowa football stuff hanging around at your house?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back
he was
to
at Bob's.
Perkins, do they figure out Isaiah Thomas if Perkins plays the entire season? Would they've ever really utilized him the way they've been able to?
I think he's a guy that still flashes, but he's not that guy that has become their leader in terms of playmaker on that defensive line. I mean, Grinch talked about it yesterday. We were talking about Trey Norwood and kind of how he evaluates that because he was kind of in the right place at the right time, yet he's still making plays. So, and I kind of meant it to be more of a what do you do when Delarian comes back? But, I mean, you've got to keep playing a guy that's picking off passes, regardless if it's fluky or not, because they haven't had anybody that's done that. And he kind of said the same thing about Isaiah Thomas. Like, you can say, well, he was just in the right place at the right time, but he's the guy that jumped on a couple of fumbles that have, should have turned the game around at Iowa State, didn't, but definitely contributed to the beating last weekend.
Just the way that Grinch talks about Isaiah Thomas, I think that they would have tried to find some way to get him out on the field. Like, it's very evident.
But they're moving him to different positions.
He's the poster child for what they want to be able to do, though, isn't he?
Yeah. It's like we talked about last week, Josh. His skill set as an athlete is it's unique.
Oh, it is. I mean, and guys, we would be talking about him differently because it would be, he's such a nice change of pace to Ronnie Perkins rather than he's a really good player in his own right. It's got nothing to do with, Ronnie Perkins wears him out and then Isaiah Thomas kind of comes in and cleans up. It's not like that. We know that OU's got a serious rotation there. But, yeah, guys, the Trey Norwood thing's a really interesting conversation because as good as those two picks were and as much as Oklahoma needed that, man, his tackling is poor.
I guess
poor.
We lose you, Bob? Bob, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. It sounded like you went
that was really
to a
weird.
Submarine
it was
for a
really
little bit.
weird.
Okay. No, but and let me throw this out, Josh. Maybe the fact that Perrion Winfrey is there is a reason why Isaiah Thomas has emerged as much as he has, too.
I think there is something to that. Perrion Winfrey, 2 straight weeks now has – guys, I mean, there becomes a question. If he can keep this up for the remainder of the year, Oklahoma's going to have a legitimate concern of if he's part of the team in 2021. Big guys that move like that, teams will – overdraft those guys, and I don't think
he won't be Devontae Lampkin.
I don't think it's the right move for him. I think it's one of those deals where if he played like he is, there just wouldn't be a lot of tape, there wouldn't be a lot of trust. The junior college stuff, there'd be a lot of questions. So he probably goes second or third. If he comes back, does everything he can, you can give him good reviews. He's a top 15 guy next year if he'll wait. But that's what's possible. I mean, obviously there's a lot to do, but his talent has that kind of ceiling to it. So, but yeah, I mean, there's no question he is making life easier for everybody. Guys, the first Trey Norwood pick, the thing that gets lost in that, he literally almost got to the play action fake before the ball could get loose. He was back there so quickly.
Yeah.
The run fake didn't mean anything because if he'd have handed it off to the running back was dead.
Yeah, I mean, it all works together, but Winfrey, I think, is a big part of why people have started to emerge even more.
Agreed.
You add Perkins into the mix. Here's the thing: you add Perkins into the mix, maybe Thomas starts making even more plays.
He very well could.
a little more fresh. I mean, look at it's Texas. He just got tired late in that game against Texas.
Oh, he was exhausted.
Yeah, they stopped having that same level of pass rush. Guys, the thing about Ronnie, and I know we all noticed it, but it just has to be said. Could there be any doubt that like the long tackle that he made on Texas Tech's first touchdown drive, the one where he chased the guy down 30 yards on the field, does anybody believe he makes that play last year? That was a guy that was just dying to be back out in the football field. Like, I'm going to chase everything. And not that Ronnie's been a lazy guy in his career. He's always had a good motor, but he chased everything against Texas Tech.
It's kind of
funny you bring that up because he said he wasn't tired after that play, and that let him know that he was ready to go. That was one thing he did say today that was kind of funny. It
is just kind of a perfect example, though, and we talk about leadership all the time, especially after losses, but it's maybe a good representation of, if you're going to practice what you preach kind of thing. If you're going to be the leader that everybody's talked about as far as, when you're not being able to get out on the field and not being able to play, once you get out there, kind of sets a good tone for everybody on that defense, I would think.
Oh, I agree. I mean, like I said, I think, and again, Eddie, you talked about that defense being fun to watch. I've got to think, from Lincoln's comments and from what you guys are saying Ronnie had to say, that was a boost to that whole defense, just having him back out there. And they looked, the entire group just looked like they were up a half a step. They just looked faster, looked more into it, I guess you'd say.
As far as Trey Norwood, I know that you posed that question, Josh. The safety thing, it's definitely not solved, right?
Yeah, they still have issues. Now, I will say, and we've been tough on Pat Fields at times. I thought Pat Fields played a really nice game against Texas Tech. He had a couple of the big fourth down stop when I think really pretty much is when OU put Texas Tech to bed on that when they had the 3rd and short, and then Asamoah made a nice play along with Woody Washington. It was actually, and I went back, I broke it down in the Monday Morning Idiot. Pat Fields made that play because he ate up a block that was going to take on Asamoah. Fields got there so quickly, he ate up that block, so Asamoah was free to make the tackle. And then the next play on a 4th and 1, I believe it was I can't remember who made that. I think it was David Agwebu, actually.
It was Asamoah and Agwebu together.
Okay. So, you just had you had some real moments where guys that I thought maybe have been a little maligned and probably fairly this year stepped up and had some really nice stretches in this game. I thought Tyrese Robinson probably had his best game as a Sooner. I don't know if Chris Murray breathing down his neck is what he needed or what it was, but I thought he was absolutely outstanding against Texas Tech.
Yeah, he had that one bizarre penalty where he just touched a guy. Yeah,
yeah.
Let me ask you this, Josh: is this the first game where Deshaun White was clearly a better linebacker than David Agwebu?
I think so. This was the first time. I saw Agwebu take a few bad angles. It left OU in a bad spot a couple of times, and I thought White played really solid. That's the give and take with those guys. Deshaun White is not going to make some of the plays that are freaky, wild like David Agwebu can make, and at the same time, he's so much more well-versed at playing that position and so much more comfortable there, he's going to make the plays he should make. And sometimes, and I know that sounds, well, what does that matter? That's what everybody's supposed to do. That's fine. Agwebu at times doesn't do that because he just doesn't have that familiarity there. So I think that's why you see that rotation. And I have to give it up to the corner a little bit. A couple of weeks ago in a board chat, somebody goes, well, what if OU started just using basically a 3-man rotation where Deshaun White's kind of shifting back and forth between Will and he's giving Asamoah a break, and they're just using Asamoah, White, and Agwebu. And that's pretty much what OU's gone to here lately. And it looks – their linebacker woes seem much more reasonable. Carey's guy, Brian Meade.
Look, you can stop making him my guy. I just defended him against haters, and now he's my guy. I hate it when shit like this happens. He dropped a pick. If he would have got that pick, he might have had a chance to be my guy, but he dropped it. So sorry, Brian, you're out.
Oh no, it's God, it had a chance to be special, but. Like me and Mario Williams, it just couldn't last. It's all right.
Alex Grinch wasn't all that happy about it being dropped. He pointed that out the other day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were so close to having several more. The the Jamal Morris fumble, and then they had another one on another Tech kickoff where it just rolled out of bounds. I mean, they had a chance to have 4 or 5 turnovers.
Luckily, it wasn't even close on the Jamal Morris fumble.
Oh, God.
No.
I don't even know why they went to review.
Jamal Morris, to this day,
Brando
will probably still tell you that he had that recovery.
I think he did.
So, what was the explanation on the Jeremiah Hall thing? Were they actually reviewing whether that was a touchdown?
No, I don't think they were watching the game.
It was ridiculous.
I mean, even if you want to call it a fumble, it was down. It was by the ground. He lands on his elbow. Like it's
he
not.
landed in the end zone.
Yes, there was nothing to review.
I don't ask a lot from my play-by-play guys, but watching the game is one of them.
Yeah,
They were stunned. They're like, "Oh, wait, maybe he didn't let go of that. Are you kidding me?" Like that was guys, and we say it a lot. That's a harder job than most fans at home. Like that's harder.
But
than you
Tim
think it
Brando
is.
has been doing that job forever.
Yes.
He should be better at. He's just
no. I agree.
He's lost. He's losing it. I mean,
he doesn't give a shit. You can tell he doesn't care.
He's mailing it in.
Yep.
Someday I'm going to mail it in, just collect checks. That's the best thing that a person could possibly do in this world.
Won't be doing it here because the corner won't let you, for sure.
Well, that's true.
I just can't wait. If Eddie as a play-by-play guy would just be hysterical. Like his suit and his tie, and he's got his radio voice going real big.
I would base everything off of what's his name.
Definitely mail it in on radio, though.
What's his? Seen it. What's the guy's name? Burkmeyer. What's the
the
on-site
AMC?
Yeah, what
thing?
is that called?
Oh,
Brockmeyer. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's an amazing show that people are listening to.
I have not seen a lot of that show, but the stuff I have seen with him and Joe Buck is fantastic.
Yes. Joe Buck, like, as much as it would be easy to want to not like him, he's willing to laugh at himself. How many of these people are that way? Ian Rappaport can't take a damn joke. Sorry.
Yeah, you didn't. You should have celebrated his suspension. Wasn't that him that got suspended for putting the manscaping ad up or something?
I thought it was because was it for the Titans?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. No, it ended up they admitted what it was. It was because he went out and sold an ad on his own account for that Manscaped company or whatever, and it wasn't NFL approved. Basically, the NFL wasn't getting a cut of it.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Like, I don't know why they get to own his account. Like, he does that.
That's everything. I mean, look, my radio contract says that they own me. I have to get a lawyer to redo my contract. Eddie, you should be doing this too. To redo my contract, to basically say, no, you don't own, all my rights. I mean, that's just the way media works these days. They want to control your social and your advertising and make every penny off of you that they can.
In case anyone was wondering, no, we have no editorial review of Eddie's Twitter, so that's we have nothing to do with that. We absolve ourselves from all his sins.
Probably should.
In radio, they call it payola. Here, we just call it being sketchy, where you advertise for someone to take some money under the table. We could do that on podcasts. Like, you think Dead Soxy's paying the business? No, they're paying me.
You son of a bitch.
I'm kidding. IRS, I'm kidding. Okay, now, Josh, you got a big trip planned coming up recently. Unless you want to hit on anything else football-wise before we get into some recruiting?
We want to spend any time on the backup punter, or is we good?
I think we're good.
Okay.
It's always the most popular guy on the team.
Gabe Burkich did miss another kick, though, didn't he?
We aren't going to talk
4
about
games
Gabe
in a row.
Burkich in a bad tone until he misses a kick that cost OU a football game.
Okay. Like Texas.
Like he almost did.
We're not going to talk about him in a bad tone until he actually costs him a game.
Okay.
And then we go for the throat. He may not ever want to come back to Norman again.
No, but, well, let's start with this. We won't mention the issues, but you did go see Kobe McKenzie before the Tech game last weekend, Bob.
And, I think there's been a lot of speculation about what had been going on with him here lately, because there's a lot of pictures of him at Texas Tech, doing the guns up and wreck them. And, I think he's starting to learn that when you put that on social media, it kind of takes a life of its own. But when you listen to him talk, and if you watch the video interview, if you read the story, you kind of get a feeling of why OU fans have no reason to be concerned. This is not something they need to be worried about in terms of the 2022 class. Can't confirm he's going to be a 2022 kid. He's definitely not going to try to make it into 2021. But that relationship with Brian Odom, Lincoln Riley, it's way too deep. It means way too much for him to start looking around at this point.
That will be, that was a good interview. You can actually see that up on the site. We have that up right now. I guess before we get into your travel plans for the weekend, Josh, you guys want to hit on Billy Bowman. That finally popped over the weekend. I know there was much speculated about. Josh, you went and saw him, 2 weeks ago? But just another notch in the belt for the 2021 Oklahoma recruiting class.
Yeah, it's another big win. Oklahoma's, currently sitting at number 14 in the team rankings after Billy Bowman's commitment. But if you look at it and break it down on the average star rating, OU's at 3.8, which is number 4 in the country. That means almost every player they have is a 4-star or better. So it kind of gives you an idea of what they've done in 2021. But, yeah, with Billy Bowman, again, just a guy, we've talked about him a lot here lately, but I have talked to people that know him, know his family, and it amazes people that Oklahoma was able to turn this around. If you would have told me 2 months ago that not only is he no longer committed to Texas, but is an Oklahoma commitment, I would have called you crazy. It just everything about him said he was solid to Texas. He'd helped recruit his teammate Jatavion Sanders to Texas. That there was all these things that made all the sense in the world, and it just didn't happen. I mean, you can understand why he moved away from Texas with seeing some of their problems and some of the things going on. Now, what's been interesting is the ongoing argument, because everybody at Texas believes he left Texas because he wants to play receiver. Again, I've been given no assurances that that's definitely what he's doing at Oklahoma. And if Oklahoma was recruiting him on that merit, whether it was true or not, I think they would put it out in front of everybody. Oh, yeah, he's going to be a receiver. He's going to be a receiver. And then once he gets signed on the dotted line, you kind of, okay, well, we'll start you there and we'll see how it goes. You kind of change the story a little bit. But I keep hearing it's open-ended, that he could end up at DB, he could end up a receiver. I think he'll be good in either situation. I think, obviously, to anyone that's watched Oklahoma, defensive back is the easier path to playing time right now. But even as a return man, he brings a lot. So this is another good get for Oklahoma, and I think it's one of those situations where we don't really care where you play. You're so good, we're just going to find somewhere to get you on the field.
How important is it? Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I was going to move on to another topic. Just the way Josh has been on a roll here the last few weeks with Billy Bowman, and then last week seeing the latest 2022 quarterback offer, even before he was offered, that timing just couldn't have worked out better.
Yeah, that was really nice. Connor Wigman, I'm going to say it right. Poor kid, I messed it up twice in the interview. I just could not. I had Wegman in my head, and I just could not shake it out. But yeah, Connor Wigman was a guy that we've talked about a lot. I think we've even mentioned him some here on the podcast. But a guy out of Bridgeland, kind of northwest Houston area, and was a guy that I had planned to go see the game for quite some time because he was playing against Harold Perkins, the 2022 linebacker offer. And then it just so happened Thursday night, he kind of, he puts that on Twitter, and then he and I talk a little bit. Lincoln Riley just called him on Thursday, made an offer, and then Friday I just happened, like I said, was going to be at the game, made it there, and he goes 21 for 25 with 5 touchdowns for like 295 yards. Perkins played an outstanding game on the other side of the ball, but Wigman was just a guy that I went in not expecting a lot, or really honestly trying not to expect too much, because every time I go see a Lincoln Riley quarterback offer, the guy's insanely good, and it makes sense. But this was a guy that Lincoln Riley couldn't evaluate in person, and I don't think there's any position where that's trickier than at quarterback. So I wasn't sure what to expect. And at the same time, this is a guy that is a very, very good baseball player. He's got an Oklahoma baseball offer from Skip Johnson. He talked to me in our interview about talking to the baseball staff the night the football offer happened. So there's a lot of connection between the two staffs there. And so with that, though, he's a guy that hasn't spent every summer working with a quarterback trainer and playing 7-on-7 all summer and doing these things that, Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams and some of these guys have done. So I expected him to be a little rough around the edges, and that's not what I saw. I mean, he was going against a good opponent. Cy Park's a good team. They were 4-1 coming into the game. They were a legitimate district title contender, and Bridgeland just ran them off the field. I mean, it wasn't even close, and it was Connor Wigman. He was making crossing routes. He made some deep throws that were beautiful. I just, like I said, I came away thinking I was going to see a borderline 4-star kid, and I'm not saying he's a 5-star, but if you told me he's a Rivals 100 kid by the end of next year, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, the highlights we got of him are just unbelievable, the ones that you were able to get on that Friday night with the 5 touchdowns. I've been told, too, that there's some belief that he could be one of the best baseball players in the entire state of Texas in that 2022 class. And if that's the case, it's something that Oklahoma hasn't really had to go down as far as, recruiting a kid and then he spurns him for baseball, obviously the way that it worked out with Kyler, but it will be interesting to see how that plays out if, say they do, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you don't want to recruit a kid for a year and then all of a sudden you look up in the middle of June or whenever the Major League Baseball draft is in 2022 and he goes, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm going to be a first rounder. I don't want to play football anymore.
Sure. And that's the risk. And I will say, kind of, I guess, in the opposite direction, he is good friends with the John Spikerman kid from Lake Creek and also in North Houston and Montgomery area. And I believe they play some summer baseball together. So, and he's an OU baseball commitment for those that don't know. So there are a lot of things that make this look good for Oklahoma. But yeah, I mean, this is where you run into that risk. And I talked to him, again, during that interview that we've got up on the site about how he kind of felt about, Oklahoma having some track record at navigating that quarterback and baseball situation. And, obviously Kyler Murray is a ringing endorsement for Oklahoma, and he was very aware of that and has talked to both staffs, Oklahoma baseball and football, about how they kind of made that work. And like I said, I think if he had to pick today, I think it's Oklahoma, but there's a long way to go. I mean, we'll kind of see. And Oklahoma's going to continue to evaluate quarterbacks. I don't get the impression that this is a class where they've made their decision. Okay, this is our 2022 guy. We're going after him. It's everything else is done. So they're going to keep looking and try to find somebody, and they're obviously hoping they can start making some trips in the spring and Lincoln Riley can get out and see some guys that he has interest in.
And I would say, too, that, I'm sure that people don't care about this, but it's one of those things that there are more and more kids opting to go the college route and then try and get drafted through Major League Baseball as opposed to, what I think was the normal way of life and going through single A, double A, and then working your way up. I mean, look at the top 10 and the top 10 picks in the Major League Baseball draft over the last 4 or 5 years. Damn near almost every year, 7, 8, or 9 of those top 10 picks have been college guys. So that might just be something to watch here moving forward. I was going to ask you, though, just as far as Billy Bowman, is it overinstated or what's the importance of getting into a school like a Denton Ryan? It doesn't feel like Oklahoma's had very much success there the last couple years.
Well, I mean, obviously the heartbreaker last year for Oklahoma was Drew Sanders. I mean, everybody talks about Jason McClellan, but I think as far as a need and a guy that brought something that Oklahoma didn't have, I think Drew Sanders was a much bigger loss than Jason McClellan, just from a talent standpoint. But Denton Ryan has been a place, and Denton in general. I mean, you look at Geyer and Ryan, they've produced plenty of good football teams, plenty of good players, but there haven't been many that have gone to Oklahoma. I mean, the list is pretty short. So, you talk about that, and it makes you more aware of how big this could be, because not only is Billy Bowman one of the leaders of this team and a guy that everybody knows, his dad's on the coaching staff. So, I mean, you're talking about a lot of connectivity from year to year on Oklahoma being able to walk in the doors at Denton Ryan. And you're talking, I mean, Bear Alexander, a 2022 defensive lineman, the number 15 player in the country, who I've said before, I think Oklahoma's as good a shape as anybody for him. Then you've got Anthony Hill, the big 2023 linebacker that I know Brian Odom and the staff really, really like. And then you've got Jordan. I almost did it. Austin Jordan, the 2022 defensive back that, and Billy Bowman on Monday morning started tweeting out the O and the I's and all those guys. They're working. I mean, they're trying to do all they can, and it's a particularly good time to land a guy like Bowman because they have a lot of young talent underneath him that I don't know if looks up to him would be the right word, but they certainly respect him.
Well, then, Josh, looking ahead to this week, it's going to be a 2022 wide receiver weekend for us. I'm determined to see Talon Chetron dominate. He's dominated every game I went before I went and after I've gone, but now I'll hope to see him again Friday night against Norman and see what he can do. But
wow, no pressure.
You'll be leaving the state. Just kind of talk about the trip that you're about to make.
Yeah, I did want to offer our sincere condolences to Talon Chetron, the fact that this is going to be a slow week for him. There's going to become a point when Santa Fe no longer allows Bob in their stadium. It's going to become a thing. But no, yeah, this week I get to go see Luther Burden, the 5-star wide receiver commitment out of St. Louis. They're playing in a playoff game. It kind of got to be where this was the last sure chance I was going to have to see him, and a 5-star guy that I haven't seen, that drives me crazy. So I was excited to go check him out. On the way up there, I'm hoping on Friday night after the game to talk to both him and his head coach, Brendan Spain. And then, actually, I've got some time after I land on Friday, and I'm going to go stop by and see 2022 defensive line offer Tyson Ford, who is a guy that I know Oklahoma's really high on, looks really good, and actually is friends with Luther Burden. So there is hopefully going to get all I can out of this. But obviously, Luther Burden being the star of this trip, I've never seen him in person. The only guy I know that has is Josh Hemholt. And that was, last year he was just kind of getting going as a sophomore at Ritter. So this is an exciting chance, like I said, to see a guy that I won't get many opportunities to see.
And to wrap up basketball recruiting, Damian Collins went to Kentucky. Let's move on.
Shocker. By the way, I also want to take some time to recognize the passing of Billy Tubbs. I know a lot of you guys are younger than I was, but that was my wheelhouse. Billy Ball, and I read Jason Kersey's article in The Athletic today. He talked to Stacey King and Coach Anderson and kind of relaying some of the stories. But, yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think about the context of Billy Ball and Oklahoma basketball at the heyday of OU football. I mean, like, OU football was as big, if not bigger, than it was right now. And Billy Tubbs managed to come in there and put a basketball program together that was every bit the attraction that the football team was. And a lot of kids like me, I grew up in a basketball household. My parents, big Kansas fans. They both went to Pittsburgh State, but they grew up on Kansas basketball. And, I had to deal with that, rooting for Oklahoma in a Kansas family, and it was horrible. 88 was the worst year ever. And, they always used, when I would come back from college, they would always have that game playing on VCR, just to keep taunting me about it. And, look, I would say of all the major things in sports in my life that have really affected me, growing up a Royals fan, George Brett, baseball, all that stuff, that was my first love. And then, 85 came around and we moved to Oklahoma shortly before that. But, my best friend, still my best friend to this day, got me into Oklahoma football. His dad played at OU and took me to games and stuff. But we were just as big of basketball fans. I remember he had this great poster of them, in front of a plane, the whole team. And I used to just stare at that and just think, how cool OU basketball was. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that poster. But, the Wayman Tisdale phenomenon and, even Mookie Blaylock and Stacey King and Dave Seeger and, all those guys that were just fantastic, and I got to see him play UNLV. My parents were KU fans, but they would take me to OU basketball games because they loved watching basketball. We went and drove through an ice storm, I remember, from Duncan to catch that UNLV game, and that was like one of the greatest. Got there so early, bought tickets outside from some random dude. I'd never seen that happen before. Like, that's the first time like I went to a sporting event where you didn't have a ticket and you bought, because like you when you're a kid, you don't know where tickets come from. It's like you just think that your parents got tickets somehow, and usually they got them through work or something like that back in those days. But to be out there in the snow and buying tickets from people and then going in, the first people to go in there, and we went down toward the floor, just watched shoot around and stuff. I still remember Dave Seeger out there taking shots. And then to have that building in a snowstorm full, it was the epicenter of college basketball that day. And OU beat UNLV. I think UNLV was number 1 maybe, and OU was number 2. And then it flipped after that. But that was like one of my best sports day ever. And I got to sit next to Billy Tubbs. Mike Howe could set me next to him in Buddy Hield's last home game against Kansas. And we just sat there and talked the whole game, and it was fantastic. And I worked with his daughter-in-law, Ann Tubbs, Tommy's wife. And she's, that's just such a great family. I hurt for them and their loss. And I know reading, some of the things that Tommy said about how much he was fighting, and that they, in the end, were just hoping God would take him because they didn't want him to keep fighting, the effects of leukemia that he'd been battling. So there it is. That's kind of what I wanted to say about Billy Tubbs. Appreciated him so much. One of my true heroes growing up, and love that guy. Love getting a chance to get to know him a little bit and talk with him over the years. And he was always gracious, always smiling, and the thing I think I admire most about it is he was such a competitive bastard, which I think all of us are that way in some form or fashion. And he was unapologetic about it all. And I think it was fantastic.
That's been the best part over the last couple of days, is just hearing the stories and then envisioning Billy Tubbs doing that, or seeing the videos. And everybody talks about the Missouri game and, and the things that he would say. Like, did you see the video that Nate Fakin tweeted out with him and BBJ?
Yeah.
It's just like, those are classic moments. And then all of that combined with the fact that, that little stat graphic that Oklahoma put out, the basketball program, 333 wins, 2-time National Coach of the Year, 7 All-Americans, 4 Sweet 16s, 15 NCAA tournament wins, which is the most in OU history, 17 draft picks, 4 Big 8 championships, and 9 NCAA records that still remain. My God. People
don't know this now, but it used to be a really big point of emphasis around here. OU and Arizona were neck and neck for longest home win streaks in the country in basketball. And I was there actually the day, I think I mentioned this to Billy one of the last times I interviewed him on the radio, and he was like, yeah, thanks for that memory. But I was there the day Duke broke the record, and Bobby Hurley was their point guard. And, that was kind of when Duke was becoming Duke, that, they were kind of, the power shift was happening between like Oklahoma and Duke. But that was amazing that Oklahoma had the longest home winning streak in the country in college basketball.
Sure.
It's just, you wouldn't think of something like that in this day and age.
The story that Van Shea Ivan passed along on Facebook, too, was just
great.
Unbelievable. I started laughing out loud. If you're friends with Van Shea, go check it out.
He texted me that morning, that story, and it was
that is great.
I didn't read his Facebook thing, but yeah, you should go find that. It's fantastic.
Pretty good.
All right, fellas. Another podcast in the books. Josh, I know you got to get out of here, go take care of the little ones, so enjoy that. And thanks to all you guys. And we'll be covering the Kansas game over the weekend. All 3 of us will have the opportunity to be there. I don't know if it's a privilege because it's going to be Kansas, but at least I'll be back in a press box, and that'll make me happy. It'll be the first time since Texas. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Good luck with your drinking and your election results and your friends and dealing with all that like we did last night. So thanks for listening. We'll see you guys back here again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.